I am Sandy Towers, the Assistant Director of Williamsburg Regional Library, and I want to thank you for joining us. We are gathering information from the community as a part of a conversation about internet access and computer help in our area. I want to acknowledge and welcome the participants that we have from William and Mary, the City of Williamsburg, James City County, the Williamsburg-James City County Schools, James City County Parks and Rec is here as well as community members. And welcome all and appreciate you joining us today. We want to hear from you. That's the message I want you to take away from today's meeting is we want to hear from you. We want to know and learn about what the needs are in the community. So I encourage everybody this morning to speak up. If you have questions or if you have answers, or if you have comments, anything you want to say, we want to hear. The chat function will be moderated, so you can type questions into that if you want to. We realize that the chat function is not available for everyone, so feel free to speak up as well. This is a conversation, not a lecture, so we want to have that back and forth communication happening. Today's meeting is for all community members who lack reliable internet access and for all community members who are interested in working together to support community-wide access. So the goals of today's meeting, and I think, Melissa, if you can share the slides. The goals for today's meeting, we want to start a conversation about internet access issues in our community. We also want to identify internet access needs that we might have in the community. We want to begin to prioritize those needs and explore options to help meet those needs. We want to identify community partners and identify ways to get more information from our community. So today's conversation will be loosely divided into topics, including technical concerns like hardware, meaning laptops, tablets, printers, those types of things, internet access issues, platform or software questions. That's where if you have questions about Canvas or Zoom or Student View, we want to hear those questions and concerns. Also, space and place issues. And what we mean by that is having students, and not just students, but all community members, having a place and a space where they can access the internet. And then the last thing, of course, we want to hear questions, ideas, and comments from you. That's the point of today, is we want to hear from you. So we will have a few brief speakers today. First will be Dr. Felicia Hyland from the WJCC Schools. She's going to update us on the state of virtual school. Next, we'll have Melissa Simpson, Adult Services Director at WRL. She's going to show us how to access resources available from the library. And these are resources for students, but we also want today's conversation to include all members of our community, so students and non-students. Next, we will have Aletha Davis, our Mobile Library Services Manager. She's going to tell us about the resources available in the community from the Bookmobile. And of course, we also want to hear from all of you, the community members. You're the important piece to today's conversation. So a couple of housekeeping things about today. We will be recording this meeting, and we will make the recording available on our website. We ask that you please mute yourself when you're not speaking, which helps minimize the microphone feedback. We are asking all of the participants to share their contact information with us so that we may send you the link to the meeting recording as well as any updates about community connectivity. So please send your email to edavis@wrl.org. All right, so with that, let's get started this morning. And I'm looking to see if Dr. Highland is with us. If she is not, we'll go ahead and start with Melissa.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to share my screen again, this time going to the library's webpage, wrl.org. Okay, so this is the library's main webpage, and one of the resources that I wanted to point out is under the Collections tab, and then you go all the way over here to Digital Content to Learn at Home. And the Youth Services and the Adult Services teams have put together some resources that we thought might be useful for students of all ages to ask questions and to get some information, maybe to help their leisure reading, their fun reading, or maybe to help with some of the classwork that they're doing. We divided this by elementary and then middle and high school, but really there's no wrong door. There's no wrong place to chat with a librarian or book a librarian, which are some of the features that you'll see on these pages. But I'm just gonna point to the ones here on the elementary school. When you click on Chat with a Librarian, you're given an instant messaging box. This would be as if you were walking up to the reference desk and asking a librarian a quick question. Chat with the Librarian would get you a quick answer. If it's something that maybe is going to take a little bit more time, we'll ask for some additional contact information. But here's a way that you can reach out with a short question to the librarians. Book a Librarian is more like setting up an appointment with a librarian. It's a simple form and you choose what you would like to do. And what's really cool is the librarians have given some suggestions for what you can do, like I want to read with the librarian, or I'm looking for specific resources on a topic, or I'm looking for a book to read. Answer as much of this information as you can, and then a librarian will get back in touch with you. We also have down here some listings of our ebooks and some of the homework tools or the databases that are specific for middle and high school. And then at the bottom of this page, you'll find some general resources for getting to the Williamsburg James City County Public Schools site or the Virginia State Education site. We also have a listing here for how to get a library card and information about the WRL Wi-Fi hotspots. So we sort of made this a landing page to ask questions and to get resources. And if you were interested and did not get a chance to listen to the Learn at Home summits where we talked about some of the transitions people might want to consider when going from summer to this virtual school environment, the webinars are located here. And I imagine the video of this conversation will also probably land on this page. It might make sense to have it all here. The one thing that we don't have listed, which we're pretty excited about, is we're developing what we're calling learning to go kits, which would be physical items that aren't books or DVDs or music CDs to check out. On the adult side, we're looking at puzzles and knitting kits and crochet kits. On the children's side, they're looking at flashcards. You might have seen something about the fossil kits that fifth graders need to use in some of their classes that we created. There will be electronics like Ozobots and 3D pens that people will be able to check out. And we're hoping that that learning to go kit will be available by the end of this month. And information about that would also be located on this page.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay, Aletha, if you would like to share the information, the resources are available from the Bookmobile. Melissa mentioned the WRL hotspots a little bit, but maybe you can talk more about that.
Okay, thank you, and good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for coming. Now I'm going to show you how to get to our page, which is the Mobile Library Services page. You go to Kids. And then if you come down, you scroll down to WRL comes to you. And you click on that. And this is our page. My information my information is there. And I just wanted y'all to note that we do have new telephone numbers. And so my new number is there listed under my information. If you could please click on free hotspots. And this is the We have two sets of hotspots that you can go to. One of our mobile hotspots, if you could click on mobile hotspots, and the full schedule for the fall. These are the locations that we will be going to. And if you listed, they're mostly 2 hours blocks at a time. We broadcast a hotspot there. Up to 30 people can come and use the hotspots at a time. And we go out Monday through Saturday. And this is the schedule, and anybody can come and anybody can do whatever you need to do at these hotspots, and we welcome everyone there. If we could go back, if you click on 24/7 hotspots, this is a list of hotspots that are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And also, if you come to any of our buildings, which is the James City County Library and the Williamsburg Library, we are broadcasting our signals, the Wi-Fi signals, that you can reach them in the parking lot. And they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also have hotspots that you can connect to at the following locations that are listed. And up to 15 people can get to those at a time. And if we could please go back. And I want to talk a little bit about our neighborhood stops. And if you could click on the thank you for the fall. And these are our listings of our schedule. And this schedule is designed so if you want to print it, you can. And that's why it's 3 sets there. We will be going to these stops, and at these stops, you can come on board. We have our walk-on vehicle, and you can check out books. We do require a mask, and we do practice social distancing. You also can pick up hose. You can check out items. We do have a limit that you can stay no longer than 10 minutes so that we can get everybody in. You can request materials from the building. And if we have a hotspot available, you also can check out a hotspot. Our materials on our bookmobile circulate for 35 days, and we do not charge any fees. They're fine-free from anything that have wheels on it. You also can return your materials to any of our locations and also our drop box, and that's also on the web page. Do y'all have any questions so far?
Aletha, this is Rachel, we do have a question from the chat.
Okay.
The question is, do you have data on hotspot usage?
We do have data on hotspot usage. Yes, we do.
So to clarify for the other people participating, are we talking that you can basically turn off your data on your device and use the hotspot Wi-Fi instead so you can save your data? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can do that. And I'm sorry, I thought you were talking to, we have statistics. Yes, you can turn off your data on your device and use our hotspots. And you can get connected and do whatever you need with the internet, check emails. You also can do Wi-Fi calling, anything that you need to do with our hotspots.
You know what? I might have read the question wrong. So I'm going to ask our person in the chat again. Are they looking for the data on how many people are using it, or do you want to know if you can use the Wi-Fi instead of your data?
Yeah, my question was around the usage of the hotspots, and in particular the neighborhood hotspots or what your setups at the local retail locations and the like, where you have 30 people that can access. How many people are actually accessing the hotspots at those locations on a given day? And the root of my question is that most of our students will need to be in an environment where they can actually learn. So having a setup in a local retail, they would have to be in the car or sitting outside on the sidewalk or something. So they don't have the ability to participate in classroom sessions via those types of hotspots. What would be more effective for them is having hotspots that are actually located in the neighborhood, similar to your Burnt Ordinary and some of the other ones that you showed, so that they could be, in their homes, at their desk, and utilizing the service. So that was the root of my question.
Yes, we do have data to answer your first part of the question of how many people are using the hotspots at each location. We do track that data. We would like to have more 24/7 hotspots, but it depends on the location. Some people they prefer not for people to be on their property after hours, or they also prefer not, for lack of a better word, someone that's not a resident on their property. So we have to deal, with that, and be also trying to make sure we follow all the rules. But when we come out, people can come, and the hotspots, they only broadcast right now for 50 feet. So people have to come around our vehicle to access that information. Sometimes it depends on which vehicle we have. If we have our smaller one, that's why we use it more, that vehicle will broadcast a little bit more, almost, maybe 75 feet. It depends on the vehicle and also what's around it. That's why we tend to go to parking lots. We get more of a range at parking lots and open space. And we have people coming, and they do sit around the vehicle. Some people drive around our vehicle. We do practice for our hotspots, social distancing. People are not allowed on the vehicle for the hotspots unless we have our walk-on vehicle. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, and I would say too that I was just looking, Elite, at some of the statistics that you've gathered, and at the end of August, we had a total of 2,068 uses, individual uses of the hotspot devices, and that was for the period of summer. So 2,068 and those are for the mobile hotspots. For the 24/7 hotspots, we get reports from T-Mobile of the total gigabytes of data used. We don't know how that translates into individual users. That data is not available from T-Mobile. So we get the data for the mobile hotspots, the ones that Aletha's talking about, we go out in the vehicle with, really by anecdotally counting the number of people that are accessing the hotspot. But we do realize that for students and for non-students, the best way for them to have internet access is in their neighborhood, if not in their home. That, being in a parking lot, it's not conducive to completing school work. Those of you who have kids that are trying to do online school from home know that it's hard enough from home, much, much harder from a vehicle or even just walking up. So we definitely want to explore the options and the opportunities for some different kinds of connectivity in the community. So that's what we want to hear. What do people need? Do you have any ideas? There's some jurisdictions and school divisions in our state that are doing some solar powered Wi-Fi hotspots that are more permanent. So that's something, we want to hear about all these options and explore all of the options. And also I would say we added wireless printing also to all of the hotspot locations that Aletha was referring to, the ones that we have a person at, not the 24/7 ones, but the ones we have a person or a vehicle at, we have wireless printing. It's free printing available for people.
Right. And also when we go, you can place holds for materials for your homework. We have giveaway materials. We also provide crafts and activities for the children. We try to focus on STEM related materials for our crafts and our giveaways. You can do basically everything at the building at our sites when we go out into the neighborhood. So you can check out materials. We have media. We try to make sure you can download materials from our ebooks. Anything that we try to provide a variety of services during our walk or vehicle. And because of COVID, we usually do have, now we're down to 2, we usually have iPads available for use also there. But we only have 2 now because of COVID, and we do have a limit on time that people can come and how many people are on at a time.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Aletha. I did get a message while you were talking that Dr. Hyland has a conflict. This is like the worst, busiest time for our school division friends, so we certainly understand that. But let's go into our topics for discussion today. The first one we really wanted to open the floor up about was technical concerns. What are you guys hearing are needs in the community as far as devices, laptops, tablets, printers? So I'm just going to open the floor up and ask for people to share, what are you hearing as far as community needs?
I hear a lot from families about their internet being down. You know, Cox will have internet down in certain neighborhoods, and so that has been a real problem. And then also lagging internet for a lot of families. I think families are also confused about how to find the information that will solve the problem that they're having. I think the schools are doing a great job getting the information out there, but a lot of families have difficulty doing that research. So they're turning to Facebook to find answers to their questions. And sometimes the answers are correct, and sometimes the answers aren't correct. So teaching those families how to access the information properly, I think, is really important. And the schools are doing the videos and things like that, but I think if parents don't read their email, or just, you know, they just don't have the wherewithal necessarily, just, you know, to kind of know what's out there and figure it out. I think that's definitely a big problem. I'm seeing a lot of that. And then the other concern is the Zoom links not working. I think they are working on that, but there are multiple Zoom links listed for every class period. And so if you click on a link, it's sometimes we'll tell them that that the class is already in progress and they can't access it. So you have to go to a different Zoom link, but families don't really know exactly where to go to find the active Zoom link. So that's too many Zoom links has definitely been a problem for families.
I'd like to add something, Heather, if you don't mind, for non-elementary, middle, high school students. We had somebody from one of the community colleges say that she needed a laptop for the semester. So I think the schools, the public schools, did a really good job making sure that devices were available to those students. But I don't think that the community colleges went to that extreme level of providing any devices. You know, and the person's welcome to come and use our computers, but it's only while we're open, and, you know, there's limited hours for there. So that's just something to throw out there. The community colleges may have an issue as well, those students.
What we've seen with Parks and Recreation, for those that don't know, we're actually operating a full day program at several of the schools in the community, just to help out with not only childcare issues and parents returning to work, but also obviously trying our best to help with virtual learning during that time. We've certainly noticed, I think, what Heather's talking about, where parents are just getting the device from the school and handing it over to our staff location, having absolutely no idea that as a parent they have some responsibilities to do, or they were given it and don't have any idea what to do. And even when we're trying to tell them, well, they need to log in and, you know, set some things up, parents, no matter whether you're from a neighborhood or not from, you know, one of our identified neighborhoods, they're just very confused. If they haven't worked in a setting since March that has dealt with Zoom meetings or any kind of conference calling, they're very unfamiliar. They're very unfamiliar with the software that is being used. And I can't say this for every school, but most of the schools are sometimes using a different format than they did in the spring. They're introducing like new websites, but some of the apps or things aren't always installed on the devices when the kids are supposed to be using them. So in addition to connectivity issues, which I think is as a whole, one of the things that all of the childcare programs around the county, whether you're the WISC, James City Parks and Rec, YMCA, private daycares, they have people in their programs accessing internet at rates that they've never seen before. Everything is slow. Even on the Zoom meetings, the teachers and the schools are doing their best to put stuff out there, but it's delayed. You hear the teacher speaking, but yet she's pointing at something that's 4 sentences before what she was trying to do. So it's been in general, it's been so kind of weeks getting them going on things. And it's very hard, a parent that may have multiple children in either multiple schools or multiple ages is also at a loss because they may be using different platforms, based on middle school, elementary. And I don't know if we as a community, I'm not going to lump the schools in that just as a whole, but I don't know if they were given everything ahead of time to make sure that they understand how to help their kids. So I know that the schools were trying to get schools open, September 8th, but I read in the chat, Katie is correct. Elementary students right now don't have their devices. They don't start again until Monday of next week. Sorry, that's 3rd through 5th. They got the tablets last week. So we still have a whole group of our entire James City County population that doesn't have devices from the schools. And we're having issues with people using personal computers, logging into internet or not being able to log into internet. We've had a host of issues with connectivity and, parents get very frustrated very easily with not knowing where to go.
It's almost like they're in a panic mode, the parents. They want their kids to be in class. Their kids are supposed to be in class. And when they can't access their class, they start to panic.
And sometimes instead of working, like just breathing and taking a step at a time and being reminded that it's okay, we're working through this, some are just throwing their hands up, which we don't want them to do. We don't want them to say, this is too hard, and so I'm not gonna follow through with figuring out what the problem is. And I think some of our parents and even with kids, they just kind of don't want to deal with it. And obviously we don't want that to happen.
I actually have a question. This is Rachel from Williamsburg Regional Library, and I have a question for our WJCC school partners. Now, it sounds like they've been, that the schools have been staggering distribution of tablets, as Kelly was just saying, like I think 3rd graders are going to get their devices next week or some such. But are the schools seeing any problems with people, students and families whose devices are available for them to pick up, and that there are families and students not picking them up for whatever reason, either due to transportation or their work hours or anything like that? I guess my question is, once the devices are made available by WJCC schools, are you finding a high rate of the students and families picking them up without issue?
That's a good question. Dr. Hyland's not with us today, but I'll make sure that I relay that question to her, Rachel, because that's actually something I hadn't thought about, is that, we've been so focused on getting the devices, that sometimes we might have the devices and people don't have access to get them. So that's another a problem that, we can explore, how can we help with that? Is there a way that we can all work together to solve that problem? So that's a good question. I'll make a note.
And Sandy, piggybacking on that, what could be a concern, as Rachel mentioned, if there are transportation challenges, which we know there are in some of our neighborhoods, right now, there also isn't a standard way through all the schools that people are turning work back into their teachers or turning paperwork back in. Some are asking photos to be taken and then emailing them in. Some have websites where they're supposed to do work on a particular thing to submit it. But then there are other schools that actually have, you know, drop boxes or things like that to turn stuff back in. And what obviously, as Rachel mentioned, may be an issue is transportation. Like, how many times can a parent, you know, get up to the school when previously they probably relied on bus transportation for their kids? And I don't know in each neighborhood, you know, how bad that is, but we know that, you know, some neighborhoods may be a little bit farther away from their home school than others. And, you know, what, maybe they're able to connect to virtual learning and do some meetings, but if they can't turn in their work, or, you know, how is the school gonna deal with credit and, you know, those kinds of things for work getting turned back in? I'm not really, even as a parent myself, I haven't been given too much information on how my kid's stuff's supposed to get there. So I don't know if they're having a challenge with that or wondering how they're gonna get stuff to the teachers.
I want, maybe this is a question for Heather, because I know you have teens in school right now. I know that Canvas, for at least the high schools, Canvas is the unified platform that the students are accessing their online classes through. Is there a place on the Canvas platform for students to turn in their work?
Some of the work they are submitting directly on the Canvas platform. It is very confusing as a parent to look from the parent's Canvas platform. There should be a green thing that says that the work is submitted if they've submitted it. And sometimes that works if they submit it through the Canvas platform, but if they submit it through another avenue, then it doesn't show that the work's submitted. And so, like me, for example, I'm like, why didn't you turn in this assignment? And they're going, well, I did turn it in, but it's showing unsubmitted on the Canvas platform, even though they've turned it in. So that's a really difficult thing for the parents if they're monitoring, you know, that their kids are keeping up with everything and turning it in.
So what kinds of issues is everybody hearing out there about? We've talked somewhat about the platform and the technical issues with the devices and Canvas and Zoom. What are we hearing as far as internet access issues? I know that there are homes in our community that don't have reliable access to the internet. There's also homes in our community that have internet access. They've had internet access for some time, but maybe that internet access isn't adequate for, say, you know, 3 children accessing a Zoom meeting at one time. So what is everyone hearing about the need for a free or extremely reduced cost internet access in our community?
There's definitely a need for it. Even families who can financially manage internet don't have the capability to have the faster internet at their house because it's an older house. They don't have the proper cables going into their house. I mean, one of our coworkers from the library, you know, she has a really hard time for her kids. She lives in an older home and, you know, it's just not feasible for her to get that internet access at her house where it's located. It's a problem.
Good morning. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, good morning. I'm Tristella. I'm with Advancing Community Excellence, our Community Action Agency program here. And we have the preschool program supported by Head Start. And one of the things that we realized was now children are at home. They go to babysitters, they go to daycare. They are mobile during the day. So we were going to give them hats, but we realized that that was going to be conducive for them moving around and then having another piece of equipment. So we were able to, and I heard you all say you have T-Mobile, we were able to get a good deal with T-Mobile and have tablets available to all of our students, as well as to our assistants. We also receive Google Chromebooks for all of our teachers. working through that platform, one of the things that we want running into is, even though this technology has what it needs, now it's about, does the home have what it needs to operate the technology? And also, we have a majority of Hispanic population in some of our areas. And so those barriers are leading to, okay, now we have the technology. How do we help people navigate use of the technology or having in their home the technology? One of the great things is that you all do have some hotspots available, but not in all of our areas, which will help increase at least some of the areas' ability to stay online. So once you get online, can you stay online? And really, we are fortunate to have people on our staff who dual language persons, Spanish, but we run into, if you're not Hispanic or having, Spanish as your native language, what other languages, barriers that we would run into. For instance, we've had Russian students, we've had children from Africa. In the classroom, you can have that one-on-one. So we're looking at how do we use William & Mary, the College of William & Mary. So how do we dial them in a platform, technology-wise, to provide that service? The wireless printer, I didn't even think about this. As we gave them technology, if you wanted to print something that you just did, we didn't. I would say we didn't go that far and think about printers. I don't know if that is something that we need to, but I think we will have to. We have gone have a teacher strategies platform that we use for preschool. And then we're using the Khan Academy as a part of that learning environment. We also have had the library a part of our convocation services, so our staff is familiar with what resources you all have. But I think for us is, now that we scrambled to get the technology, is can parents access the technology in the home? We're going to do a survey. We're handing out things on Monday. We've done some surveys. People do have emails and so forth, but the thing will be, the test is, once it's in the home, how will it work? And then what barriers will be having on our population of really the children come to our program and go back home and teach English to the parents. So this is going to be a different dynamic in that the parents need to help the child in the home to access the system.
Thank you. That's good information. I have a question for you. Are you, I know at the schools they're taking attendance every day. Are you taking attendance in the preschools and Head Starts as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that's some good information that, that we'll be able to see who isn't able, to log in and access. That's good. Okay.
And we are tracking, we have our analytics as well, which was a good thing to talk about. Was now that we said come pick it up, we'll see, is transportation a barrier for people to come and pick it up, which we will readily address by delivering it. But that's something we didn't think, because we're all excited first that we got the technology, yay, and which was a real scramble to get. And but we've been working all summer and getting ourselves ready. The other part with that is for us and with the schools is also bringing in behavioral health through a platform of virtual reality, online and trying to help with those kids who have been identified previously with IEPs. So, technology is great. Having it work together is another thing. So,
yeah.
So, but I'm very interested in looking at this thing now about wireless printing and place and space to access the internet is the other part of our work for community access.
Yes.
Particularly in our senior communities, medical. We just had a conversation about telehealth and telemedicine yesterday, and people not being able to go to doctors. How do we, telehealth centers? I mean, all of this is new stuff. And what that technology looks like for that. So if you got someone who's a senior and wants to do a telehealth with Norfolk Centera, they don't want to drive there. How do we make that happen? Is there a local hotspot that they could go to? So I think there's some opportunities for us to start looking at those things with what the library already has in place.
Mm-hmm. Sandy, there was a question in the chat that I just wanted to put to the group. We had a question about if the schools are conducting surveys of families that don't have internet access at home, and is there any outreach happening directly to those households to find out about their challenges with web-based learning? This may be a question for Felicia Highland, but I wonder, I think that's a really good question. Is there any information that we all could get from the schools to help us address those households and find out what their challenges are?
That is a good question. Is there anybody in the room that has information about whether or not the schools have sent out surveys? I mean, whether you're a parent and you've received a survey or associated with the school division?
They did send out surveys asking who had internet access and who didn't, and whether it was reliable internet access. They sent that out
before
sometime.
School started, right? That was before school started.
Yes.
I would imagine that, I can't say this for sure because we're obviously just starting, and half of the elementary population still hasn't received devices yet. But I would imagine that as we get towards the end of next week, and especially the beginning of the following week, in my opinion, it should be somewhat up to the teachers to report the information about students that are assigned that are either not showing up in meetings either at all or with regularity, to be able to then reach out. I think it's going to come more meaningful from an individual teacher about what needs are, whether it's meals. We talked about grab and go meals and making sure that each family is aware that they can do the grab and go meals. And also from the technology standpoint, I think from a teacher perspective, it may just be them realizing after every student gets their device, now what are the challenges? It may be we have to put more information out about how to access things, or it may be internet or things like that. But I don't know if they feel like they can do that yet when a lot of the people don't have them yet.
Well, I will definitely share that question with Felicia and ask her also to share the information that they get from that survey. If they're able to share that with us, that might help inform some of our decision making. So.
Yeah, my thought was that we have this sort of anecdotal evidence that we have as professionals from our various perspectives, and I understand that reaching out to the folks that are having barriers to access is difficult, because the way that we would access them most conveniently would be online. However, I do think that in this case, it might be worthwhile to either do like a mail survey, or better yet, and I recognize it's time consuming and the schools and teachers are swamped, but even like a phone survey of parents. There's ways to sort of bypass the barrier of internet access. And then even for the ones that do have internet access, we were talking this morning, my coworker and I, she and I went to school recently, went back to school. When we did our undergrad, online classes weren't a thing. We're old enough for that wasn't a thing back then. We only happened to know it because we went to school later when it was a thing. But if you are a parent that, didn't, which I'm sure there are lots of parents like this that have no experience with online learning, online classes, like Kelly was saying earlier, I'm sure there's a lot of confusion about what to do and how to access this, especially if you also haven't had, not everyone had the kind of job where you're teleworking and working by Zoom. And so there could be I'm sure there are lots of people. So I think, even surveying that population as well, folks that it's not that I don't have internet access, but I have it, but I don't know what, you know, for whatever reason that their children aren't fully participating in some way. Is it because the parents are confused? Is it, you know, these things that we're talking about, but hearing it directly from the parents, I think would be really valuable.
Well, you definitely hear it from the parents on those Facebook sites, even the simplest things they're having trouble with. I do think it's getting somewhat better. They've figured it out over the last week, but on the first few days, I mean, it was very simple things that they couldn't figure out how to do. So, and I was just about to say that they sent out a survey about internet access over the internet. So you are missing all of those people who don't have the internet access or the emails or that type of thing.
Well, one of the things that we've also heard is that it's not only frustrating because we've done a collaboration with CDR and Bright Beginnings and Department of Social Services with our preschool, but there is a struggle even among the teachers who have been teaching for a long time, who have not, as Latara spoke about, had to even think about this as being a part of their career, that they will be teaching online. So there's a double frustration in the classroom for the teachers and for the students, and it even gets more complicated if you are non-English speaking in a preschool so setting. So I do think that Bright Beginnings is having some challenges. I think they're the last of the ones that will be getting the technology, because third graders are just getting it. And I think then the first and second, and then I think it will be Bright Beginnings. So there is going to be some loss, I think, in our, lag behind as we try to catch up. Which I had a parent tell me, who's a grandparent, that let's say who's in the home right now. Grandparents are raising preschoolers, and grandparent says, look, I got the technology, I got internet, you gave them the tablet, let them have it. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know anything about this thing, and also I am babysitting other children because those parents have to go to work. Mm-hmm. So if you got, second generation homes, third generation homes, where the grandparents are, doing double duty and triple duty, there's a lot of complications happening within that home, even if you have a hotspot, even if you have the resources. So having resources, having all of that, there's still, I don't know how we get to that or how we teach that or but we've been working with this parent, a grandparent, and trying to put resources into that home by connecting her to the neighbors, actually, and building that type of community. But it's definitely one of the things I'm grateful for is the honesty of it, so we can know how to help. How do you get that for everyone? I don't know. But that is definitely a reality in which we live in as we look at generational homes. We also look at, in our program, not everybody is a legal resident. But that does not prevent them from being in our program. So not everybody is willing to speak up. Yeah. And acknowledge certain things. So I do think that an internet survey about internet through the internet is not a good way to gather what we need. But we did make phone calls, personal phone calls to our folks and try to find that out.
That's good. We also talked about, some of the library colleagues were talking about, we can get some information from the students or about the students from the school division, but, we're also concerned about all our residents, the adult residents and the non-students as well. So we thought, do we need to do some kind of, neighborhood canvassing, or like Latara mentioned, some sort of mail-in survey, just to find out. It's hard to find out information about who doesn't have a reliable internet connection. I mean, we know, like Latar said, anecdotally, but the cable providers are very protective of that information. So it is hard to find out that information.
I just want to ask a couple questions, and Tricelle, what you said made me think of this. And I wonder if we're talking about surveys and data, and I wonder if it's reasonable to survey the teachers, because they are the ones that are on the front lines and are seeing, I think, what the barriers are, and we should be asking them for feedback on what they see as the biggest challenges for their students, whether it's internet breaking up, or because they can probably see and hear what's going on in the home in regards to support system. And also, I would think that every teacher knows what students are supposed to be showing up in their class. And if we can get that data and identify who's not showing up, we can do more targeted surveys of families of why their students are not able to participate. Just an idea out there.
Thank you.
You know, we do have a comment in the chat about a community-based strategy of learning pods that has been used in some communities throughout the country. I wonder if, William, could you tell us a little bit more about that? That could be useful for us to know about.
Yeah, sure. I've seen some examples throughout the country where parents form small groups. So let's say there are 6 parents that have first graders. They form a small group and they work together collectively. So maybe, you know, one parent says this week, you know, the kids will all come to my place. You know, we'll set the kids up there. The next week they go to another parent's home. They have their safe pod. So, you know, they're in contact with the same group of students, the same group of families for the duration, I guess the 9 weeks or whatever the at-home period is, but the parents are able to work collectively so that the burden is not all on each family to take care of all these needs, and parents can go to work and do the normal things that they need to do to support the family. So a lot of folks have kind of organically grown these what I'm calling learning pods, but maybe there's a way that it can be introduced as a best practice where other families that maybe never thought of the idea can be introduced to each other, and that can be a support network for them.
There are definitely some learning pods happening in Williamsburg. I know several families that are doing it, and it's great. But it's also getting the information out to it's reaching those communities that are hard to reach, you know, to get that information out there.
You know, Sandy, I have a question that may be best again for Felicia, but I'm interested in any input anyone else has on it. We have gotten together with the schools before, and Felicia would tell us about Parent Academy, where I believe the target demographic are the English language learning community, and they would basically have, before school starts, hey parents, this is what you need to know. Here are all the resources. Here are the names and the faces of the people that can assist you. Here's how things work in our school system. Do we know if there's any talk or any plans of doing something just for parents schooling at home, like a parent academy for, you know, supporting your students as they do school online? Do we know if there's anything in the works, or there been any talk of that? I know that a lot of the most of the teachers did a really nice orientation, and the first couple of days where here's where everything is, here's how everything's going to work. But I just wondered if there's anything maybe in the works with the schools that would be sort of like a parent academy, just to give the parents some of the tools they need now that things are in full swing.
They have done several videos for parents to watch. They did a Canvas learning video. They've done some other things, but you have to watch the video. And I see a lot of people asking questions that were answered in those videos. You know, they didn't watch the video, so they didn't get the answer to the question. I don't know if they didn't know the videos were happening, or I'm not sure, you know, why they didn't access the videos, but there are a lot of videos that the school system, tutorial videos that the school system did out there. And they're accessible from the school website even now.
Sandy,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any way we, either librarians or some of these other people in the community that are educational partners, I wonder if we could just get a link or a copy or something of that video so that we can be better prepared to help the parents that are coming in that maybe didn't watch the video.
Right. And again, it's also, I think that's a great idea, Rachel. So I think we can find that on the website and share it with the group. But I think it's also a matter, again, of we are giving information about accessing the internet on the internet. I don't, you know, and that's obviously, you know, that's challenging. So I think some of the people who maybe could most need this video and need the help aren't able to access online help.
The other challenge, I'm not offering a solution. I'm just just adding my thoughts to as we're sort of articulating the challenge here, is that a lot of the things that we would normally do in terms of community outreach and engagement and public informing and educating the public about something, a lot of those things that we would normally do are not available to us because of the pandemic as well. So you could, you know, a solution, if we were in a different situation, one solution could be that you hold, you know, an assembly where people gather in person and you just go step by step, and those things aren't available to us right now. My best solution in terms of the best thing I've thought of so far, and I'm not saying that this is like a great solution, but the best approach that I've come up with so far is putting things in print and finding distribution points, like partnering with the library for the census outreach. You guys, I think, did a really fantastic job with that. And, you know, I think the Bookmobile is just such a great resource because it's contained and it can do some of that face-to-face engagement and also be a distribution point for literature. But then, you know, then you have the issue of like, you still got to get people there. I mean, granted, it's in neighborhoods, but then you got to get people to read the literature. So, you know, even if you were able to put out instructions, I don't know who would want to read instructions on step-by-step how to, you know, log onto Zoom or Canvas or something. But that's the best, the very, very imperfect solution so far that I can think of is putting it in print and finding a distribution point, since we can't do in-person, you know, community meetings and that sort of thing.
They did distribute a pretty lengthy instruction sheet with each device that they handed out.
Yeah, I think that might be, we did the same thing. The county did the same thing at the beginning of COVID. Did people read it? I don't know, but we did put out resource lists for at various distribution points. We use those sort of magazine boxes where you get like those free newspapers. We got some of those and then put out about 10 boxes throughout the community where people could go pick up information. Again, the whole point was to reach the population that you're not going to reach by the internet. But how much was that utilized? And then how do you advertise that? Again, if you can't advertise it by the internet, like how do people even know to go there? Which I thought, again, the Bookmobile, having the postcards, I thought was a good idea for the census outreach. But it's time consuming and it's kind of costly in some ways in terms of staff and resources and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's just not a perfect solution there.
And
One thing I was thinking while you were talking, Latara, was the idea that we have that James City County community TV station. I don't know whether, I mean, you have to have cable in order to get it. I don't know if that would be any more accessible to be able to run some of those things on the TV.
One of the things that I had been thinking about is that as far as a good distribution point, could the grab and go meal sites be a good distribution point? Certainly would not want to get in the way of that effort, but I mean, people got to eat. And I wonder if some of the people that, I mean, there are basically 4 places in the community open from 8 to 11. It's like a certain window of time at 4 different locations in the community, Monday through Friday, where people are coming to get food. There may be a lot of crossover with some of the folks that do not have good access that are showing up to those locations. Maybe that's a place where we could distribute whatever it is we want to, or rather than distribute, glean some information about, you know, what we can do to help. I don't know.
We did inquire about that at the beginning of the shutdown. The county did, about distributing literature at those points, and that was not something that we were permitted to do at that time. Now, granted, that was months ago, and so that situation could have changed, and it may be different for the schools, you know, to distribute their own information. You know, I don't know if they had enough staffing to do that at that point, and so, but it's a good idea, and I'm sure they've gotten lots of inquiries. This is the second meeting this week where someone has suggested that as a distribution point. So I'm sure there are folks that are interested in doing that.
Aletha, do you have any insight on those food distribution sites? I know that you and your team go to those with the mobile van. I mean, are they being heavily utilized? Are people coming and staying, or are people just coming, grabbing the food and going? What are you seeing?
Most people grab their food and go. It's kind of hit and miss. Some days when they come out there, I notice that people are in a tremendous rush. Sometimes they will come over to our side if they wanted something to do. Currently, though, the school system, they are broadcasting their Wi-Fi signal into the parking lot. And that's why we're not going, we're not going there now. But the issue with that is only for students. The general public can't do that. And I just found that out, that you have to have a password, a school password to do it. But generally it's hit and miss. And like they said, the workers do not have time to distribute information. And if you do try, you got to stay out of the way. And sometimes if I try to flag somebody down, they usually know me. They speed up real quick.
Just to add to that, one of the things, some of the families are participating in the delivery, because you can also sign up to get the grab and go delivered. So it's not grab and go, it's delivery. One of the challenges that the school system faced was making sure that families are aware of the opportunity to get those meals. And I was in a group over the summer, and it was just shared that the participation in the free meals had dropped off tremendously. So the numbers are down quite a bit from what they had hoped that they would be. And I think they just started with the meals on the 14th. So I think they just started with the meals on Monday. So they are just getting that off the ground. So it's definitely a great idea, because Rachel, as you said, people definitely need to eat. But I don't know if the families are participating in those school lunches as much as the school systems hope that they would. And I'll just throw it in the hat. Here at Grove Christian Outreach Center, we are still doing meals for kids, and we're serving about 80 to 90 kids a day. And we're always glad to hand out any information that we can, that's for the good of the group. So we're glad to help out in any way we can.
And with that, the frustration that we heard from parents, getting in your car every day and going to the school got old real quick. At some point, you had to bring the children with you, and one family has. So I start families who are qualified to get scholarships. Their children are in the school system, so you can get meals for the children in the school system, but you can't get the meal for the child, that is not in the school system. And so we're working with USDA. We were able to provide gifts at the beginning to our families to go to Food Line, purchase their own food. Now with the Community Action Agency programs, we're also looking at how can SNAP be utilized for Amazon or Walmart with a listing of items that you can purchase, like through WIC, those standard items that you will get in the USDA meals, because of the frustration of trying to find transportation. We have a lot of people who use the water. So, they're not going to pull up with water, get the food. Water's not going to wait while you get the food. So we heard these frustrations, and so we've been trying to figure out, as Community Action Agency partners, with technology of informing, talk about getting online to order food and have choice. That's another thing. Choice and not eating the same thing. And it really was the first thing from mothers who were getting those kids in the car. Then you would try to carpool together, but nobody else can pick up your meal, so you can't send your neighbor. And we've been talking with USDA about this, even trying to set up with our partner Food Line a list of items that they could purchase through that USDA approved, so that USDA will pay for it. The reason why we could give the gift cards at the beginning is because we received additional COVID-19 money. Well, that's a one-time shot. After that, we got to get back to reality and use our resources. So we're working with USDA, and there's a community action agency at the national level trying to work where we can break down those barriers and use technology wisely, so our food can be, delivered to people's homes via the Amazon Prime or, via Walmart, because it is really, transportation in this area it is not good,
No, it's not. And when you've got to drag your little ones along to the grocery store on a bus, and also, don't get me started on food safety issues around that when you've got food that you've got hours before you get it back home. So,
and having worked in the historic Triangle Center where we were for over 20-some years, and having the food bank right next door, Fish, it is quite a daily struggle watching people get dropped off there. They go into Fish, get their food, and so then they have their children, and there are also some items that they see that they would like to have that have been donated, and then watch people get on the bus and leave those things that are not food related behind. It's just too much. Yeah. So we from folks, it got to be that thing of going every day got real old. So I wasn't surprised when you heard that the count went down. It's just too much.
Well, and I think that issue of transportation really leads us into the topic of space and place issues, because people are having a hard time getting to, we mentioned earlier, telehealth, and people need a private place where they can access a telehealth appointment. So, and having space in their homes. I mean, we have families, living in hotel rooms, and the challenge of doing school or just doing life from the hotel room is difficult. So let's open the floor and talk a little bit about the space and place issues that we are hearing about in our community, and thinking about brainstorming any solutions, just gathering ideas for what can we do to address some of those needs.
let me just put this one thing. And I have to go. I got another meeting. Can you believe that? But one of the things, talk about place and space. Not everybody has a space and place they want to be on a Zoom link with. And I didn't realize this. I have a good friend who does a lot of cultural discussions, and she shared this with me. What Zoom has done is, or virtual, has taken people into people's homes that, even as co-workers, we didn't know. You don't know where people live. You can come to work, and that's your work life. And now you're asking us to. I didn't realize it's a barrier.
Yeah.
We're thinking everybody great, but not everybody wants you to see where they live. Not everybody wants you. You know, we do have quite a few children who live in the motels.
Mm-hmm.
Our populations. They're considered neighborhoods, not even just the children, but seniors and people who just that's their home. And they're never thinking that they're going to have a Zoom and their child sitting there. I mean, right down the street here, right by James Blair, where the hotel is. You know, we have children there that are participating in our program. Now they're having to find a space in that one room to have that child be in a learning environment, whereas the child at least got to leave that room and come to the program. So there is something for us to start looking at as we're trying to gear up and come back in. Talk about place and space, and then even for senior living, a lot of people don't want you to see. They'll come out to the food bank rather than you coming to their home.
Right.
So I do think that is an interesting conversation. But I have to leave. I'm so sorry. Thank you all for inviting us. And I do look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And make sure, Trissel, that you send Aletha an email so that we are compiling everybody's contact info. Thank you for participating and for your input today. We really appreciate it.
Just because this happens to be germane to what she was just saying, I work with the teens, and when we have virtual either Zoom or Discord meetups, I encourage all of the teens to participate at their level of comfort. So I tell them, use the video or don't use the video. If you want to mute yourself and use the chat, that's okay. So I'm just sharing that as a practice that has worked for me, because we have some teens that, want to show their face and talk, and then we have others that they just want to put up their avatar and listen and chat. So that's one of the things that I've tried to do to encourage, even my shy guys to still engage and participate. I say, participate at your level of comfort. You both have your option to mute yourself or take your video off, and we're glad to have you either way. Just a sidebar of a practice that has been successful for me.
And I think that's up to community folks that do work with, and we know these issues exist, to also talk with the teachers, our school personnel about, because already in a week and a half, we've already had issues where teachers, like there was a kid that was on a video with his mask on, and the teacher was like, take your mask off. I can't see you. I can't, see your lips, what you're saying. And the child couldn't because they were at a childcare program. And so they need to be, like, teachers and school personnel need to be aware. There's other times that there's been kids that are not on video, and the teacher has said something about the child needing to be on video so that she can see, what they're doing, that they're responding to like things, or they might have a write and whiteboard that you have to respond to. And like we just said, there could be issues where families don't want the video. And so again, all of these are issues about how we're doing virtual learning, what we're asking kids and families to do, how we're asking them to respond. And it's tough for all around. It's tough for kids, and it's tough for, the teachers. I'm not faulting the teachers for asking them to be on video so that they can participate and show things, but educating them that some may be uncomfortable with that.
And I think also, realizing, of course, that the transportation is always an issue, but maybe having some spaces, whether it's at the library or the rec center or sprinkled throughout the community, where people could come and participate in a Zoom, like for example, a telehealth where they have to have the video on maybe to participate in the Zoom telehealth meeting or any kind of Zoom meeting, maybe having those sort of sprinkled through the community. It's just an idea. It might be helpful. Is that the experience that those of you, Kelly, I know you're a parent with kids in the school, and Heather, you are too, that the kids have to have the video turned on?
I don't know if it's been a requirement in the two kids that I have a kindergartner and a third grader. There was one day that my daughter's video just wasn't working. So, you know, she was the only one that her video wasn't working. So that was kind of odd. In kindergarten, I won't say that the teacher has said anything about them having to be on video, but because they have everybody else mute themselves, because there's so much background noise happening, she looks at, like, when they're doing letter sounds or things like that, it's necessary for her to be able to see the kids mouthing things, because they can't all respond when there's 20 kindergartners on the screen. So, you know, there's a lot of challenges beyond technological and connection issues that become a play. I mean, I've already witnessed there's been a parent in the background not using very good words or being loud, like in a Zoom meeting. I'm sure other people have had that experience, and that's their home life, and I'm not judging that. But while my kid or other kids are on Zoom, it does become a challenge and disruption. So, and again, there are kids that are at childcare programs where they're in a cafeteria or a little bit of a group setting where there's a lot going on. You know, so the virtual learning has a lot of layers of challenges that people are seeing.
Most of the high school kids aren't required to have the camera on, but it's a much different learning experience than elementary for sure. The poor teacher's teaching to 30 black boxes on her computer screen. I feel a little bit bad for her.
Well, again, I just want to sort of kind of wind us up for today and think that this is just a starting point for this conversation. I know some of you participated in a conversation when we started last week, where we had a lot of community members from William and Mary and the different jurisdictions talking about what sort of infrastructure we could support in the community. So this is just a starting point, gathering of information. So I encourage all of you to please share your contact information with Aletha at edavis@wrl.org, because she's going to be compiling the email list, and we will share the video of this, but also any other resources through that list. So we really appreciate it. Just opening up the floor one last time. Does anybody have any other thoughts they'd like to share for today, or any other ideas they want to share?
Just one other thing that I hear a lot of parents concerned about on the high school level is the lack of SATs. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but that is definitely something parents are stressing about, is the SATs are canceled and their kids are going to be applying for colleges and they don't have SAT scores. And yeah, so that's definitely a big issue.
Right. Pastor Thomas just joined us. She came late, and she's on the screen now. She was one of our partners for the Hotspot program, and she's on right now. I see her. Are you trying to say something, Pastor Thomas?
I am. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Pastor Thomas. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry about getting on late. I teach Silver Sneakers for Seniors in Williamsburg, and we had 2 classes this morning.
Good.
And I just got off and got on here after I got off the class. But this is really good, and I just thank you for just allowing me to come on and just listening to the part that I did hear. There's so many things that I picked up, and I don't want to hold you too long, but most of the people in my classes are, I call them 55 or better. Some people call them seniors, but I say 55 or better. And when we first had to go to the virtual classes online, it was quite challenging for them because they don't do the computer like that. And they're very careful, and I think they should be with everything that's going on in the world today, but they don't feel comfortable just getting online. They're like, are they going to see me? Who's going to see me? Who's going to get my information and all of those things? And so I try to work with them, helping them to assure them that everything is okay and try to guide them through this, which is new for all of us. I'm not your average computer person. I'm learning. And as I was on here, I kept hitting something. I'm like, oh no, they're seeing the big screen. That's me. Oh my God. But anyway, I'm still learning, but it's been a pleasure, to do it. We just got off of a Zoom exercise class, and some of them didn't realize that the other ones could see them because they don't know that that lifestyle. So they're like, they can see me. They'll call me afterward and say, did the other people see me? Yes, they did. So I'm just grateful to be on here just to hear what's going on in the community, and hoping that I can glean, and some of my participants in my classes can, I can give them some information as far as helping them to be able to get online to exercise. So to keep moving.
Pastor Thomas, can I just ask what church you're from?
I am from I pastor a church called Fresh Start Ministries on Richmond Road.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah, right on Richmond Road near the Honey Butters and that new ice cream place there. But we have not been in the building because of the virus. We don't know when we're going to go back, but we are right there on the end where the tax office is. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We also have a watch party at Powhatan Apartments. So Powhatan Apartments are there. They're being quiet. I just want to let y'all know they have a watch party going on there.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great.
Does anybody at the Powhatan Apartments have a question or something they want to contribute? Is there an ombudsman that might just stand up and let us know what you're all thinking out there?
On the what? Good morning. A lot of things that have been shared today that are very important have already been spoken upon, and I'm very happy that other people have seen the concerns, and thanks for putting me on the spot. Thank you very much. But again, in these meetings and these settings, in helping to network and to provide the best services to families that are at need, is most important that when those needs are met, they're addressed, that we just work on resolution for them. And again, all of my concerns that I was going to speak on for other families on behalf of the families that live here, because Powhatan is a subsidized housing and family community, have really been addressed. Those were transportation, getting to and from the pickup. That issue has drastically been discussed today. So I didn't feel like I, needed to give any input on that, but transportation has been expressed by several of the families here, being that some of them are returning to work. The issues are really, really individual, because some families have transportation, but then their work schedules don't allow them to get there. Some families are with limited transportation to get to the schools, to pick up the laptops and to get the necessary information from the schools. So we at Powhatan, we pride ourselves in being that link to the families, between the schools, between the libraries, between the communities, and wherever we can help to bridge and communicate, we will. We also have families, again, this has been addressed today, that still haven't gotten the laptops. So we know that that's a universal concern, and all of us as community advocates and school and family support systems are hoping that that can be resolved pretty soon. And it sounds like the school system has a plan for resolve for that. And then I do have the families that, again, if they have internet or they have the tablets. Some that may have to, again, this has been addressed, go to daycare or a grandmother's house or another family member's house who may or may not have the internet services. We have been fortunate through our partnership with the library and the bookmobile staff to obtain those mobile Wi-Fi hotspots. So that has helped a great deal of families here. But there are those that are still concerned about budgeting the amount into their, what they have, their spending limitations right now to get the basic cable services or internet services here. And where we are located, there are some barriers with, the service, how well the service is able to carry for 2 or 3 children. There's a lot of families that have multiple children in the household. So they have the high schoolers, they have the elementary schoolers, and so they are worried about how well the internet, their internet source will operate, in addition to if it will be compatible to what the school system's laptops and their hardware is offering. So we all have a great deal of the same concerns. We're all working and championing together to try and come up with some really creative solutions to help the families, to help the children. Again, the mobile hotspots are also here to help adults who are going back, who will be or will need to return to the workforce, who have to do job searches and have to do things to meet employment requirements. So we do have that 24/7 access, and it's wonderful. But again, our main concern is, how many people can utilize it. What happens if there is a service interruption or something that's beyond our control due to weather or something like that, and how long it'll take to get the services back up and running. So everyone has a great deal of, concerns, but we're all working together and hoping that we can continue to have these conversations that will help to get everyone else on board to understand those needs of all of our families. And especially, like I said, I'm working here with the Powhatan families to support their needs. So that's about all I have to say at this point in time. I hope that helps.
Thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, once again, thanks for coming. Make sure you email Aletha so we have contact information for everybody. And we will continue this conversation. We expect to have additional meetings like this. So we welcome any ideas, and thanks for participating.